So we have a bit more time because we have an extra 15 minutes in this chunk for question and answer. So Jonathan and Guylaine, there. If you don't mind coming up, do we have some questions? Jen.
So all three of you come from relatively young universities that you've mentioned, and I think have mission statements that reflect that, thinking about community engagement, whereas perhaps some of the older universities might have a more traditional approach to such things. So I wonder if you have any advice for us at McGill, an older institution who doesn't have that mission, that concrete thing that says engage the world. How do we? It's not that anybody here objects to that, but it's not the central organizing feature. So how do we
do it anyway? Do it anyway. I started my career at Oxford just the same way. You just create your own events. You decide where the community is going to be engaged, and you show the university the way. I would say if that's the concern.
Yeah, I would second what Jonathan says. I mean, we very much have very strong institutional support, but some of the events that we've been doing have, I think, been pushing the envelope a little bit, and it's been very, very well received.
Universities have distinct cultures, of course, but they are made of networks of people, and I would say start with your networks, and there are with faculty members, with students, and it flows very, very naturally. But I agree that it's what we need to do now to build our collections for not only for the contemporary history, but for our future. And it's fun. It's a lot of fun.
I have a question. This year, Jen and I, with Sarah and a number of others in the room, have been experimenting with reaching out to school students. So we've done various things with hackathons or trying to, engage them with our material. And we've had some really interesting experiences. One was when we had elementary school students in, and we had them into Rare Books back when this room was a bowling alley, and it was very tight. It had, the old printing press at the end. And the first thing they did was they whipped out their phones to take pictures of the primary materials, and what we were actually trying to do was to teach them digital literacy. And neither Jen and I were fast enough to actually catch the picture of them doing it, which was so ironic given what we were doing. Could you talk a bit about what you've done with engaging various different student communities?
So two things come to mind. We've had grade school classes in as well. They're, when we show materials, they're mostly interested in the military collections because there are swords. And the academic gowns, actually. They like looking at the academic gowns. Whatever. But what's really interesting that's starting to develop, so we do summer camps at University of Victoria called Science Venture. Highly popular camps. It's trying to get concert tickets. You're on there at 7 in the morning. You've got your friends on the phone too, and all these computers trying to log on and get your kid into any science venture camp at the university. It's the most popular camps for kids in the summer. And last year we partnered with Humanities and the folks who run Science Venture to do a Humanities library camp as an experiment, and it was highly popular. Humanities folks, so there are folks in linguistics who came to help, and also in English and history, and used our special collections classrooms. We used our set of the philosophical transactions to just sort of learn about science and art. So there's this kind of trying to walk the line between science and humanities through these camps. So we're doing many more of them this summer because it's looking like it's got endless possibilities of engagement for kids.
We have examples of things we've done to engage our own university students. Directed studies have been a fantastic success, but we haven't actually brought campers or public school students into I think digitally we have, so that Komagata-Maru project that I described we invested quite a bit in developing lesson plans in collaboration with our Faculty of Education. So the material is getting out there in that way, but we haven't taken the next step of then finding those kids, like my son's grade 4 class, and bringing them in to look at the original objects. We haven't taken that step yet.
We're working more with our students for now. We don't have that kind of community activity for that.
I have a question for Gwen, and it may or may not be relevant to some of the people in the room, but I know SFU, and you actually have 3 campuses. So I'm wondering how you deal physically or digitally with engaging the community when you're actually covering really different physical spaces within the Lower Mainland.
Yeah, we struggle with this, and we haven't, to be honest, we haven't figured it out. Special Collections is on the Burnaby campus, our main campus, and our model right now is that if you want to work with Special Collections, for the most part, you come to Burnaby, which is not ideal. The publishing program is one that is very interested in a lot of material in Special Collections, and it's based at a different campus, but they do bring their students up to Burnaby. One of the reasons is that we have not, if anybody can help solve this, we don't have, we can bring a selection of material down to work with a class, but we don't have secure exhibit space on our other campuses. So it's often happening that conferences will be hosted at the university at the downtown campus, and we've got related material we would love to showcase, but we don't have secure exhibit space that we can use to highlight it. So great question, not a great answer.
But huge opportunity. I mean, I know SFU did 2 things to Gwen, and there are 3 quite distinct communities. And SFU is really set up to leverage that to do it well.
Yeah.
I'll ask a question. I'm interested, I guess, in hearing, so Guylaine talked about this a little bit, but Jonathan, Gwen, if you could talk a little bit about how the community outreach that you've been doing, how you see that sort of folding into future focus for collection development. Like how do you see how do you see that helping to drive? How do you see the connections that you've been making with that helping to drive sort of your ideas about the kinds of collections you're going to develop, especially because it's such a young university?
It's very related to the fact that it's such a young university, and we coexist across town from the University of British Columbia, which is older and has very deep historical collections. So we've carved out collections, mission for ourselves that is not dissimilar to what Guylaine said, that is documenting the history of British Columbia, social movements, labor history in British Columbia. And so the way that it's been unfolding is that we began by being very deliberate in going after some key collections, and then the way these things work, you get some and then word starts to spread in the community. And that has very much been the case. So with our BC labor history collection, for example, we got a couple of big union archives, and now they're coming to us faster than we can handle them, to be honest. And it is a tremendous historical record of the province, and we're very pleased, and we've got a labor studies program. It fits with the university curriculum very well. So we carved out this area that we think is an appropriate one for a young university that is community engaged in this way, and we're kind of in the snowball phase of it now.
Yeah, just to kind of extend on that too, again to go back to the beginning of the day and talking about diversity and again what I was saying about intentionality. You're building relationships over time, and if I just pick up and say on our transgender collection, there are levels of trust that some communities need to feel before they're willing to continue to engage in a sustained way, and recognizing that it is a sustained relationship that we're building too, and that this feeds into our thinking, which I don't think anyone in Canada really has yet been able to fully engage with, but how do we engage with our Indigenous communities? Their knowledge, their very different approach to access to knowledge and to who should hold knowledge as well. So we were talking about, Gwen and I were talking about this a bit earlier about just, we're all sort of feeling our way in that area, but we do know that the longer we show sustained engagement, the more likely it is we're going to enter into valuable relationships for both. I mean, it has to be a equal partnership on both sides.
Other questions?
Another one more.
Sure, absolutely.
This is a completely Canadian panel. And so as you were talking, I was thinking, I wonder what are some of the different concerns that Canadian universities might have as compared with the American universities who we've heard represented today. And I think that is to do with the Indigenous, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission and dealing with our history of treatment and engagement with the Aboriginal peoples. And I wondered if you could talk even a bit more explicitly about how we're all wrestling with that. Because I know, especially with the archival community and we at McGill are really wrestling with this right now.
Yeah. Just to I guess finish off with my comments. One of our faculty members, for instance, received a collection of children's drawings from residential schools, and she struggled with what to do with this collection that she was entrusted with, and she ended up going through a process over the last 3 or 4 years to repatriate the drawings back to the individuals who produced them or their families as a way of preservation, really, preservation in a meaningful form, access in a meaningful form. And so we, unfortunately, I missed it the other week, but we had her on a panel, a library panel with one of our Indigenous artists who went to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission to argue against destroying the records, the testimonies, which were destroyed too. So even within or finding within the Indigenous community, there's a debate about access to knowledge and where and how to preserve it. So it's, again, it's one of those areas where I think we have a tendency to want to solve problems, but there's a lot of just listening and engaging over time.
Yeah. With everything related to Indigenous nations, it's a lot what I feel too. We're in the learning phase, in the listening phase, and it's true that we are more in the problem solving and to-do mode always, which is really coming with it doesn't work the same way at all when we're working with, when we're talking and we're engaging with our Indigenous communities. So for now, we haven't had any occasion to work in special collections, more in other areas of the library. So we're documenting, we're making resources available, we're establishing communication channels. But I personally, I really don't feel ready to take institutional decisions and programs, but it will come, and it's going to be in conversation and in collaboration. But it takes time. We simply first have to digest everything that we read and everything that we learned.
One of the things Jonathan and I were talking about this morning was that this whole topic really makes us critically think about our traditional models of ownership and acquisition as kind of our primary mission. I think, the post-custodial model may be much more appropriate for our work with Indigenous communities. We have, at SFU, one of the things that we've done, which is not in special collections, but I think we'll go there next, it's with our research data management program. We have a standard research data agreement, but we began working with some of the local First Nations around some of their data, and we sort of halted the process and took the time to develop a different MOU, because their terms of access and their understanding of ownership did not conform with our traditional one. And I think, although we haven't done the same for special collections, our standard gift agreements will not hold, they will not work in that environment. And since we've successfully worked with this, with a couple of the local First Nations to develop this MOU around data, I think we can move forward now with developing similar agreements around other kinds of collections. And the other thing that we've done is just really taken the lead from Indigenous researchers at the university. So where a faculty member says, here's a great collection, and there's an opportunity for a gift, and we've got an Indigenous scholar who is advocating for that, then she leads the way, and we can bring the expertise, but very much taking the lead from them.